Hi everybody, here I am in Tinkercad. This is my dashboard. I obviously have a lot of things here already. A lot of these are student designs that I load up here. And obviously if you're just getting started, you won't have as much. You can close the tutorial that automatically pops up when things get started and just create a new design. If you want to find tutorials later, go to the Learn tab. There's a lot of great stuff there. Um, but yeah, today we are going to work on ear savers, and so I've posted these four files, and so there's four styles: the wave style, the no touch style, the braided style, and the bar style. For me, as far as comfort goes, I like the no touch style. It doesn't seem to rub on my ears as much. Um, but you can use any of these that you like. So I'm just gonna create a new design, and it'll always pop up with some weird name, and that's fine. Just to keep things straight, I'll just leave it alone. I'm gonna start, well, yeah, I'm gonna start by importing one of these files to start with. I import and I choose a file, and I'm not sure if you can see this window, but anyway, I am choosing the no touch ear style STL file, and then I import that. I'm not going to change the dimensions of it. It's actually pretty important that you don't change the dimensions of this. And why isn't it coming up? Okay, we got it. It just took a little while to import. So I can always click on this and I get a bunch of controls. This gives me the dimensions, and I can drag this if I want to, and I can squish the directions vertically or horizontally with these black boxes. In the middle, I also have these two things. I have the height control, which is another white box, and I have the black cone, which allows me to drag stuff off the ground. I also have 1, 2, and 3 rotation arrows that I could drag if I wanted to. Now, I just moved the camera around. That is right click and drag, or alt click and drag if you're on a PC laptop. I think there's a different thing for a Mac. But anyway, right click and drag. I can also drag the camera up here. I can also use the fit button, which is F, if I want to hit that, and it'll zoom in on this. So what could I do to customize this ear saver? Well, let's try a few things. First thing I want to do is add a few shapes to it. And I have a bunch of options here. I'm going to choose the heart. And so I just drag a heart over. And by the way, undo right here is your best friend, also Control Z. When you're a beginner, you're going to make mistakes constantly, and that's fine. But the reason I don't like the star here is because this is going to go on somebody's head, and I don't like the points there, so I'm going to delete that. All right, so we're just going to work with these one at a time. I'm going to drag this over. I can also use the arrow keys, and I'm going to hit F to zoom in. And I'm moving the camera around. It's always important to look all around. And that's good. How tall do I want this thing to be? Well, let's talk about the height of this. This thing needs to be at least 1 millimeter to be strong enough to hold together. It also needs to be probably less than 3 millimeters to be flexible. Otherwise, it would be too rigid. So whatever we add should be, if this is 1.2 millimeters high, let's make this 2. Okay, so I'm going to drag that down. I can also type it in right there if I'm having any problems with that. Cool. So does that look like about what I wanted? Yeah, perfect. All right, so not much more here, really. I'm just going to take that and I'm going to do a Control C, Control V to copy and paste. You can also do that from up here. And I'm using the arrow keys to go straight over. There's also a duplicate button. So what's the difference between duplicate and copy and paste? Duplicate creates another thing exactly. So if I were to go here and I say Control D, or I hit this button, it looks exactly the same, right? Except when I move it over, there's another one. So the difference is where it creates the new one. But that's fine. I kind of like having 3 there. Let me just kind of space them out a little bit more. Fine. And you know what? Let me make the center one just a little bit bigger than the others. So I'm going to hold the Shift key down while I drag this up a little bit. Why am I holding Shift? Because otherwise I could warp the shape in any way that I want. And I don't want to warp it. So I'm going to just enlarge that a little, maybe raise it up. I'm not too worried about that point. And so this ended up a little taller. I'm just going to switch it right back down to 2. And now I'm happy. So I would say this is a completed year saver. I'm going to drag a box over everything. I could also hit Control A for select all. I'm going to group it, or Control G. Now it's all one thing and it'll become the same color. The color that you see here is meaningless. It's only used in this design stage. When we print this stuff, we're going to be loading a certain color or multiple colors into the printer. So I'm done, and I'm going to hit export, and I'm exporting. In this case, it doesn't matter whether it's everything in the design or the selected shape because I grouped it into one shape. And I'm going to hit STL, and it downloads that, and now I've got that. And that is the file that you could submit to me. Done. Well, let's take another approach to this. I am going to ungroup this, and now I've got those pieces back. I've completely changed my mind. I still have that file that I just downloaded, but I'm going to get rid of these hearts. You could also duplicate the file if you want to keep something and then change it. But let's talk about text. What could I do with text? Well, let's drag this big text shape over. The first thing I recommend doing is actually changing what you want this to say. Number 1, let me make it all caps. Number 1 grandma. And we're going to change the font to, I don't know, I have 4 choices here. And there are ways to get more choices in the shape generator menu, but let's just stick with this for now. I kind of like that serif font. So I'm going to close the shape menu. I need to make this a little smaller. Again, I'm going to hold the Shift key to avoid warping it. And I think that's pretty good. I need everything to be connected, so let's see. Maybe I actually do want to warp this a little bit because I want it to be kind of tall. And I want it to really just be in that middle part, or at least held together by that middle part. Because everything needs to at least be touching. Okay, I'm happy with that. Number 1 grandma. And in the printing process, actually, we can do different layers and different colors. So, we can make this different. So, okay, this is at 7 millimeters tall right now. I'm just going to squish it right down to 2, just like the other one. Boom. Number 1 grandma. How's that for a gift? All right. So next, I'm going to take a slightly more complicated approach. And I'm going to go back to the dashboard to start over. Okay, so for this part of the activity, I want to download a web image. And I think it would be pretty cool to represent my high school. I grew up in Tiffin, Ohio, went to Columbian High School. So if I just Google search that, and let's see, are there any good logos here? No, there are no great logos on their website. So I'm going to go to image search, Tiffin Columbian logo. Here we go. We were the TC Tornadoes. And I want to use, I like this one. That's pretty good. So the fact that it's a little grainy doesn't make any difference because you'll see. Because we shrink these things down so much. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on this, save the image as, and I want to save this as a JPEG or a PNG. It's telling me GIF. Let's try that. Let's see if that works. So now I'm going to go to a website called picsvg.com. There are many converters. You could just Google search SVG converter. This is one example of a free SVG converter. But they give you some examples here. An SVG file basically is a single color conversion of a picture. There's an example of it. It works a lot better for some images than others. But anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and open that image file that I just downloaded. Will a GIF work okay? Yes, a GIF works fine. So I'm just going to mess around with these filters until I get something that looks kind of solid and dark. I don't want it to be that dark. Goodness. Hold on. Okay, so I've settled on this one, invert number 4. Pretty happy with that. So I'm going to download the SVG, and I get a file download. Cool. Now I'm going back to Tinkercad. I'm creating a new design. You can use any image for that conversion, literally anything, but you want large panels and solid things. A highly detailed picture is just going to come out as chaos, and I encourage you to experiment with one of those websites if you're interested in that. All right, so I'm going to use this SVG file and import that right in. I'm not going to change the dimensions or the scale. I can worry about that later. There it is. Oh, it's huge. Okay, no problem though. I'm also going to import the ear saver that I want to use. And I got my eye on the braided style this time, which is down here. Braided style, there it is. So obviously it's going to be much smaller. I'm hitting F, right. Okay, so how do I get these sizes sort of balanced? I'm going to select that. I'm going to hold the Shift key while I shrink it way, way down. I can always hit F to zoom in and drag that around. And I'm dragging and then hitting F. That's one. There's probably a faster way. Okay, and then so let's compare the sizes here. I don't want it to stick out too much. I think that's sticking out slightly too much, and I'm still holding Shift. Fine, and so how tall does it need to be? Well, let's look at the height of this. This thing is 1.5, and so 2 would be perfect for this. Boom. All right, so you can probably guess where this is going now based on the last few. I'm just going to move that over a little bit so it doesn't get in the way of that thing. I will copy and paste. And paste one more time. Maybe I will stick that out just a little more. assuming I don't need to use that inner hook, which would be, I guess, for a very small, very tight head, very tight fit. Um, okay, pretty good. I want to do one more thing with this, which is put text on it. And what do I want it to say? I want it to say TC. And I'll put 2 spaces between those so they're kind of separated. Okay, good enough. And I'm just going to center that, maybe put it a little lower. And how tall? Well, if you make it exactly 2, then it'll have exactly the same colors, or it'll blend in to this top layer. I think what I want actually is to make this slightly more than 2. I don't want to go as high as 3. So what I'm going to do is click on that. And if I say 2.3, now it's just slightly higher than the rest. It'll come out much clearer. I'll be able to actually read the letters. I would like to center that a little better. So let's see how this looks when it's all grouped. This is something I would plan to print in multiple colors so that the different layers will show up differently. So like, for example, the colors are blue and yellow for the school. So I could do like blue on the bottom, yellow for the middle layer, and I could even change it one more time for those letters, make the letters like gold or something, or white. So that's it. And so then I would once again go to export STL file, and that is something that you can attach to me in an email or even just post on Discord, and I'll see it that way too. All right, one more thing I almost forgot. You may need to change the size of this. These are kind of meant to be one size fit all, and you can see it has all the adjustable, well, I mean, it has the different hooks you can use. But you may find that you want one of these to be a little bigger, in which case all you would have to do is mouse over here and hold the shift key. Just make it a little bigger. Just give it a few more clicks. And that would be perfectly good if you need an XL size, or you could obviously shrink it also. If you do that, do you need to worry about changing the height again? Nah, it's such a small difference, it's not really going to matter. So if you think that you're creating this for an especially large or small head, then you may actually want to change the size. Okay, but thanks everybody for joining in this activity.